people, the headlines, the issues impacting you and your family this week in Cincinnati on 9 on Your Side.
Good morning, and thank you for watching This Week in Cincinnati. I'm Kristyn Hartman. Today we continue our conversations with the people who hope to become the next governor of the state of Ohio. Joining me now is former Ohio Supreme Court Justice Bill O'Neil. He's a Democrat from the Cleveland area. Thank you for coming down this morning. And before we begin in earnest, what I'd like to do is introduce people to you, if you don't mind. From your campaign website, we know you're a registered nurse, a retired lieutenant colonel, a small business owner, a former TV reporter, and assistant attorney general, and as we've said, a former Ohio Supreme Court justice. What else would you like folks to know about you?
Wow, you said about as much as I think they need to know, but I'm an adoptive parent. I've lived in small towns all my life, and I guess I'm the only Democrat ever elected to the Ohio Supreme Court in the last 30 years, so I'm somewhat unique. And
how did you do that?
That was no money from nobody. I took on the idea that judges should not be taking money. I ran against an incumbent who had $2 million to spend. We had no money, but the message resonated that judges shouldn't be taking money. That's how I became a Supreme Court justice.
All right, we have a whole show of Q&A ahead. What I'd like to do is talk just a little bit about your opponents, who you're running against.
All good guys.
All good guys.
They are.
Okay, so let's take a look at the major candidates you will run against in the Democratic primary next month. Richard Cordray, former director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, former Congressman Dennis Kucinich, and Ohio State Senator Joe Schiavone. So those are the folks you will be facing off against. And let's dive right in, okay?
Sure.
Last year, Forbes ranked Ohio at 14 in its ranking of the best states for business. What would you do to promote economic development in the state?
Well, economic development, I think, has to start with a vision. I mean, for example, our manufacturing base is way down, and we're not using what we have. For example, there's no reason that we don't have solar panels on top of every single government building in Ohio. They pay for themselves in 7 years. They protect the environment, and they create good-paying jobs.
Is there an upfront cost with that, though?
Well, there definitely is, but something that's going to pay for itself in 7 years, there's absolutely no problem getting financing if you're the state of Ohio. You can do a bond. You're going to be reducing the electrical expenditures of the Ohio government on day one. No, it's a good economic job. The other one that, you know, I'm somewhat known for around the state is it's time to legalize marijuana in Ohio. There's 18,000 jobs right there.
So we're not just talking medicinally, we're talking recreationally too.
I don't even use the word recreationally. I think it should be just legalized. There's no question if marijuana was legalized in Ohio today, the heroin deaths would go down 25%. That means 1,000 people wouldn't die this year. But if we're talking about jobs as well, I'm the only one that's saying that why did we abandon the idea of the high-speed rail from Cleveland to Columbus to Cincinnati? We had $600 million of federal money, and Governor Kasich gave it away.
Okay, so you've hit on 3 economic points there.
For starters.
For starters. All right, next question is not a comfortable one. But when you consider the Me Too movement and how that has really taken off, I'm obligated to ask you this question.
I appreciate the opportunity to answer it.
Okay.
I'm a civil rights lawyer. I've got a 40-year history of supporting women. I represented the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. I was prosecuting sexual harassment cases before Clarence Thomas was a justice. However, I made an inappropriate post on Facebook.
That was back in November, correct? And it
seems like a lifetime ago.
If you wouldn't mind explaining why you put it up.
Well, there's no question that the mentality in the nation towards Al Franken, who had stolen a kiss during a comedy skit 10 years earlier and had apologized, and people were crying that he was no longer qualified to sit in the Senate. I was angry by that. My approach and response was inappropriate. When I saw the damage I was doing to the women that I've supported all my life, I immediately removed the post. I apologized, and I think that's the standard that I hold everybody to. When you're wrong, you promptly admit it. That's what I did.
I want to get a little more specific.
Please do.
So for people who are jumping in who might not be familiar with the general nature of the story, in your post in defending Senator Al Franken, you also talked about your own past sexual encounters with, quote, approximately 50 very attractive females.
Yeah. Well, as a candidate for governor, when I saw what they did to Senator Franken, I specifically said, I'll save you the research time. When I came back from Vietnam in '70, I was kind of a wild person for about a decade. I had a lot of partners. Don't bother chasing him. It was all consensual. I was a different person then, but I do not apologize for my past. I clearly apologize for celebrating it in public.
Do you think that that could hurt you?
Oh, clearly. It has already hurt me in the sense that you and I are talking about it 6 months later.
Okay, and you have daughters.
I have wonderful daughters. I have wonderful sisters.
Okay, and how'd you talk about it with them?
Oh, they were angry. They were very angry, and I listened to them, as I always do.
Okay, what did they tell you?
Stop it. They said, stop it. Your sexual history is of no interest to anyone, and you are embarrassing us. And they were right. They were right, and that's why I say the standard that I want applied here, when you're wrong, promptly admit it. You don't see that in politics too terribly often.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on.
All right.
All right. Infrastructure, it's a big concern for the state of Ohio. Really, it's a big concern across the United States. How would you tackle infrastructure issues? Infrastructure
issues is going to just require that we rethink what we've been doing for the past 50 years. We've got bridges that are crumbling. We have roads that need to be repaired. I think we have to start looking at why are we so locked into automobiles and the automobile gas tax. Why aren't we doing interurban stuff? Why aren't we doing the train systems? Why aren't we moving into the next century? But,
mass transit.
Mass transit. I can't get over that $600 million we gave away. $600 million of infrastructure jobs is big.
When you tackle infrastructure issues, it costs money. Where is that going to come from? Because it's not small money. No. It's huge money.
Well, I think we really have to be grown-ups in the room. And, for example, for this campaign, I bought a used hybrid automobile. We put 17,000 miles on it in 3 months. And we get 38 miles to the gallon. Maybe we have to start thinking about raising the gas tax and put that money into infrastructure, which would have two wonderful outcomes. One, it would reduce the use of gas, and two, it would generate more money for our bridges and the other infrastructure.
You talk about bridges. Most notably here we have the Brent Spence Bridge.
Yes.
It is a rather almost daily topic of conversation.